share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I've got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
Oh, yeah, we need them. We need those strategies, don't we? Those strategies for living. Are you ready? Ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
Well, I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
I'm here with you, though, so
well, you're
I'm
here.
ready.
Yeah, so you showing up is part of it,
that's
you know?
right.
A big part of it sometimes. Hey, folks, welcome. Glad you've shown up here on Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being with us. I'm Dr. David McMillian. She is psychotherapist, PLPC, Lauren Leon McMillian, and this is Strategies for Living, where we take a break from what normally goes on and we talk about healthy living, body, mind, spirit, and relationship. And, you know, Lauren, we talked yesterday in the relationship realm, and we said, hey, we need to do this more often.
That's
we
right.
need to do more shows on relationship. And so,
here we are again.
Here we are, and we're doing it.
Let's do it.
You know, the most common relationship problems, of course. And, a lot of this I'm kind of going over the past 30 years working with lots and lots of couples.
Right.
But the most common issues are we're not communicating. I don't trust you or you don't trust me. Navigating through times of sexual incompatibility. Finances, of course, are an issue that come up from time to time with couples, and aligning our goals so that our goals are in order in the future.
Yeah.
And so, unmet expectation, reducing conflict, defining personal boundaries, determining whether the relationship is toxic, or is this relationship worth investing our time in? So there's some common questions that we can throw out that will help us today talk all about those things. So that's the intention today for Strategies for Living. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you being with us, and we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of The Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, Pretty Good Muffies too, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. We're talking relationships this evening here on Strategies.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem trap. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian. Glad you are with us today as we are talking about relationships. You know, Lauren, we mentioned this yesterday on yesterday's program about relationships, and that is, a lot of people are interested in growth, in self-growth. And we touched on this yesterday. So I think a good thing to open with today. The fact that if you are in a relationship, if you are in a marriage or a committed relationship, There is no better way to grow yourself.
Right. It's a sacred playground.
It is a sacred.
It can be.
It can be if both parties understand.
Yeah. What it's about.
The sacredness of, and in churches, you can understand why marriage has been raised to, in some churches, it's a sacrament.
Right.
It's an outward sign of love moving out into the world, right?
Right.
And I know I'm being very broad here, but I think it's important for all of us to realize how much relationships can grow us.
Huge, yeah.
And
Astronomically.
it doesn't.
And there are some ways I think that only relationships can grow us.
Okay, talk a little bit more about
Well,
that.
there's a lot of growth that you can do on your own,
Right,
even in the self-help venue, right?
right.
But there's only so far you can go without needing a reflection, without needing to be in relationship with another beyond yourself.
Right.
Now, we talk a lot about, and I think it's important that we mention, of course, the foundation for all relationships
It's the relationship you have with yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, it's that idea of, do you have to love yourself before you can love others? Well, we all know that we can love others more than ourselves.
And that can be an opportunity to bridge that.
Right, exactly.
And love yourself, grow. And that's my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so again, we in a perfect world, everything is balanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love ourselves and we love someone else. We have a special relationship with someone, and we have friends, because you love more than one person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. And I mean, if not, you might want to take a look at that because something may be amiss, right?
Yeah.
So I think at the onset, it's important to put that on the table for discussion. Now, the most common relationship issues, communication, restoring trust when trust has been broken in some way, navigating through sexual incompatibilities, managing finances, and aligning for future goals. And I would also add parenting.
Oh, yeah.
I would add that if and when children come into play,
it's a big one.
that can cause issues. And I'm not just talking little children.
No.
Because there are children as they grow and develop and have children of their own. And so how we orient and how we deal with our children and their children, our grandchildren, can cause incompatibility later on that can really kind of bite us in the behind, if you will.
Big time, yeah. But again, just like the primary relationship, the relationship with then children and grandchildren provide an even greater opportunity for ourselves, for our growth as people, individually and as a couple.
And I mentioned that certainly key areas of concern are, what are the unmet expectations in our relationship? How do we reduce whatever conflict is between us? We may not ever be able to get rid of conflict because conflict is inevitable between two people who have different histories, were raised differently with different messages.
Yes.
So the key then becomes
communication and staying current.
Staying current, absolutely. And then, of course, boundaries. How do we define personal boundaries? And last but not least, determining if the relationship is is worth us investing in. Investing
And continuing,
and
right?
continuing.
Yeah.
Or is this relationship a toxic problem
Right.
that, we really need to work through? How do we go separate ways? But in terms of communication and conflict, I would throw some questions out, and we can talk about these if you like.
Okay.
What's one thing that you'd like to change about how we communicate?
Yeah.
What pattern do we fall into when we argue? And what pattern do we fall into when we argue that you'd like to break?
So what this kind of brings up in me, both of those questions, and as we're talking about communication, is I think it's important that, as a couple, in counseling, we call it, there's the context, there's the content, and then the process. Right?
Correct.
So I think it's important that we do a similar thing within relationships where we can discuss a problem, but then I think it's perhaps even more important that we discuss how we discuss the problem. What's going on as we're discussing
kind of
the
some
problem.
meta-analysis.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A meta communication, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really...
How do we communicate
that's
about
key.
communicating?
That's key, I think. And because I think that's where most people get stuck. If we continue...
Well, let's face it. There are some people who are better at communicating than other people.
Absolutely,
and
no doubt.
that's not just a thing of nature. That's just not a natural thing, because there are some people who were raised in situations where they were maybe even punished for communicating openly.
This has brought some light to some of my clients. I like this idea, this kind of theory. And it's probably more of a spectrum than the dichotomy that I'm going to present, but it helps us to get talking about it.
Right.
There's often there's a culture, two different cultures in families. It's either an ask culture or a guess culture. Okay. And I think a lot of times
ask culture
versus
or
guess
guess
culture. And oftentimes,
as in make a guess.
Right.
Yeah.
As in, if you grew up in a guess culture, that meant that you just had to know what was going on. You had to kind of read between the lines. It was more passive communication. And so, like, an example would be like, okay, if I put the trash by the door, that means that you have to take it out. I expect you to take it out without there being any kind of open, direct communication, right?
Well, you're saying that putting the trash by the door is a communication. Yeah.
Right? And so, if you came from a guess culture, you might understand that sort of passive, very almost subliminal, non-direct communication. But then there are people who come from ask cultures where everything is very direct. Right? If I want you to do something, or if I need something from you, I'm going to tell you or ask you directly.
Right.
And so I think what happens, not just in primary relationships, but in relationships in general, because I saw this a lot in my internship with roommates at college, right?
Right.
Is that if one came from an ask culture and one came from a guess culture.
And often that is what happens.
Yeah.
We don't draw to us
right.
what we need. So
right.
coming from an ask culture, you're probably going to be drawn into a relationship with a guess.
With somebody from a guess culture, right? And so that is sometimes, I think, where a lot of communication breaks down, because the guess culture person is saying, well, you should know, right? Yeah. And the ask culture person says...
Be careful, always be careful to should.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it then is when it becomes really important to, like I mentioned earlier, begin to communicate about how we're communicating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to be able to reach some sort of consensus between those, it's going to require talking about how we talk.
Well, I'll throw in another question that I think is key, and that is, what's an area where you feel misunderstood in our relationship? Mm-hmm. Is there an area where you feel misunderstood.
Yeah, I think that's really important because one of, I think, the greatest sacraments of a relationship, a marriage, is that we're able to witness each other.
Absolutely.
Is that we're able to be seen and heard and understood.
And reflected back.
Right.
Right.
And so if there's a piece that feels missing, it's incredibly important that we talk about it.
Yeah. We are, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're talking about relationships, and we're talking about some specific questions that people typically bring into couples therapy and couples relationship therapy, marriage therapy, and other relationships. Talking about that today here on Strategies for Living. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about trust and intimacy. That's emotional intimacy and compatibility and our future goals. All that ahead here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us. More to come.
Facing the same old problems day to day makes you wanna holler, get away. Looking for the road that'll get me there. Looking for hope and peace to spare. Looking for strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
And welcome back into Strategies for Living Radio. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian, talking about relationship issues today. We said in a recent program, we don't do this enough. We don't do enough relationship programs. Could there be anything more important to the growth, our own self-growth, our growth together? And when we strengthen relationships, we strengthen communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, this is not stuff, this is not stuff we're taught in school.
No, it's not. And oftentimes not in the home either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're modeled something, right?
Something's being modeled, but it may be,
great.
What may be modeled is a toxic relationship, a dysfunctional relationship. And so when we wonder, well, why? Why do we have so much trouble in relationships?
Yeah.
I mean, why are the statistics what the statistics are? That about 50% of all marriages fail. And then, common sense says, the more I do something, the better I get at it. So second marriages should be, a lower divorce rate, and it's not.
Not so.
And in fact, about 60% of second marriages fail.
It goes
and
up.
Then third marriages, it goes up again. So it's not, I get better at this the more I do it. It's what am I doing? What can I do to educate myself, to learn how to be in a healthy, balanced relationship?
I totally agree with you. And I want to counter this because I think this can be a toxic narrative that we carry around in our society, and that is that the longer a relationship is, the healthier or the better it is.
Yeah. We celebrate 25, we celebrate 50, 10, 75, and yet,
that doesn't mean much, to be honest.
No.
I mean, sometimes, absolutely. It means that if you've stuck together and you've been able to grow together and accept the changes, I mean, I think that's one of the pieces of a long, successful marriage is being able to relearn, being willing to learn the person as they grow and continue to love them as they grow, right?
Absolutely.
But I also want to point out sometimes the healthiest thing is to go your separate ways.
Yeah, because, you've got to know when to say when.
and I'm coming at this, I'm going to go at it from an even higher, I guess, broader perspective of like the soul, right? Because I think
Pretty good place to come from.
I hope so. I think we all come in with certain lessons and themes to explore during our lives, and we connect with particular people in order to do that.
And some of those connections are actually meant to
last a season.
And teach us a lesson, our lessons that we need to learn for
and that becomes the important
future growth.
That becomes the discernment piece. Being able to recognize when your lessons together are over.
Yeah.
And when it's time for both of you, for the better of both of you, to move
forward. Yeah.
And I think that takes great courage. And I think that's an important new idea that's worth adopting as we go forward in the world.
And again, not advocating for, everybody to go out and get divorced. No, not at all. Not at all. But advocating for if there's toxicity in the relationship, if the relationship can we talk? Number one, can we talk about what's wrong?
Yeah.
Can we have a conversation without those 4 deadly horsemen that we talked about yesterday?
Have we created a safe, solid foundation?
Yes.
Which means be with each other.
Which means we can talk about anything without criticism, without contempt, without defensiveness, and without being stonewalled. Those are the 4 deadly horsemen. And if a couple can do that, then that couple is in pretty doggone good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, though we have to, as pointed out, we don't learn that. We don't learn that in school. Many times we don't. Sometimes we would learn it from, the modeling the marriage we saw our parents have, but often not.
Right, and especially not in that explicit of a way. Right, being able to label what we see in the relationship. It's kind of crazy to me how the nuclear family unit has really isolated all of us from seeing other ways of living. There are times you can remember as a kid maybe going over to a friend's house, right? And noticing how differently they did everything, right? Or other things.
They eat dinner different. Yeah. They play with each other different. Oh my goodness.
Right. There are other ways to do things,
right? Yeah. And it's revelatory, if I could say it that way. Sure. But it's also important to figure out what is it that I want.
Mm-hmm.
So moving into the trust and emotional intimacy, and we're talking about being and feeling safe here.
Yep.
Some questions that might be asked that you might ask yourself and ask your partner. When do you feel most insecure in our relationship?
Yeah, I think that's a great one to explore together.
Have you ever felt emotionally disconnected from me? And particularly, particularly over time.
Right.
Right. I think certainly when if we have a fight.
Yeah.
You may feel emotionally disconnected for a few minutes, but again, in a healthy couple relationship, we work through the conflict and we keep at it until it's worked through to the benefit of both couples.
Right.
And we said this yesterday, but you make the problem the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make each other the problem. You do your best to keep the problem in front of you and invite your partner and you to solve this together, right?
Right. And then in conjunction with the when have you ever felt disconnected, I would encourage couples to talk together about what are ways that help you to feel connected.
Right.
And how can we implement those on a daily, weekly, monthly basis so that we can stay connected and caught up.
Yeah.
Right?
Another question is, what can break trust in our relationship? That's an extremely important question to ask. Lauren, there were several years ago, many years ago, a couple came to me, and they were in an open marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They called it the lifestyle, right?
Right.
And so they came in and they sat down, and before we did anything, they wanted to share with me that this was in their marriage, and was that okay? Could I still help them? And I assured them, no judgment here.
Yeah, sure.
I'll help you the best I can. So we got around to, okay, how can I help? What's going on? And the guy looked at his wife, and he said, you want to tell him, or am I going to tell him? And she kind of hung her head and said, I had an affair. Well, I sat back in my chair and I said, okay, time out.
How's that work?
Yeah. And so they explained to me that they had rules within their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so they were completely okay with their partner being with other people as long as it was open communication.
Right.
They knew. And so there had been this other couple that they had become both attracted to and had become involved with. And for whatever reason, the guy in that relationship and the wife that was in front of me in my office started sneaking around and not telling. And for whatever reason, I mean, they didn't have to. Right.
Because they was set up.
They were set up. But for whatever reason, maybe it was the excitement. Yep. Maybe it was whatever.
Yep.
But we had to navigate through that. They hit a wall. Even though they had practiced this, this for a while, and it had been okay, now it wasn't. And neither one of them wanted to give up their being able to be with other people.
Yeah.
And so we had some work to do.
Sure.
We had some communication, and it was, it really boiled down to an issue of safety. It really boiled down to an issue of trust.
Right.
As long as we're clear with each other, then everything's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example, because it's important to realize that not all relationships are the same. Not a single relationship is going to be the same. And so that's why it's important to communicate, consistently and over time as things evolve. Okay, where are we now, and what's okay with you, and what are we okay with together?
And I would caution all of us, because I realize, telling that story, that many people went into judgment, in their minds. Yeah. And I honestly did myself, listening to them the first time. I mean, I got to be honest. However, I wouldn't have been able to help them navigate through it if I had locked into judgment. So, try to stand back and say, other people live different.
Sure,
and it's
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
Strategies for living. Talking about relationships today, and basic questions, hopefully, to help us all be healthier. Be right back.
We all have problems every day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies for living radio.
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian. And, I was thinking about you mentioned last segment that it's not longevity
Right.
And I remember going on a vacation and meeting some friends' grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And these folks, it was an idyllic situation. We drove up and, it was an older home and there were fruit trees outside and there's this old dog,
Yeah.
right? And the old people were just as cute as could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't have to be there very long before you realized they didn't talk to each other anymore.
God.
They had been mad at each other for years. So what would happen? And this old dog, and I thought about this later, because this dog was old. He was a Lassie type dog, right?
Yeah.
But he was big, and his the granddaddy would say, he would talk to the dog and he'd say, "Go tell her," and fill in the blank. And the dog would dutifully go to the woman and look up at her.
Right.
And she'd look down and say, "You go tell that old coot," and fill in the blank.
Right.
And it's like,
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh,
But
geez.
it was an experience that I witnessed, and that was long before I became a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's if it worked for them, it worked for them. But
Well, obviously, it worked for them on some level. I guess they stayed together. But again, what kind of together?
Right. And what kind of life is that for? And especially that.
I really worried about him when the dog passed.
Right. Yeah.
Which,
I'm just glad it was. I'm glad it was a dog rather than a child.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Because I think that happens a lot too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, you're right. So some questions about, compatibility and the future are appropriate. So are we on track to still be in love with each other 20 years? Do our plans and visions for the future align?
Yeah.
Are you in love with me, or are the potential of who I could be?
Or what I do for you.
Yeah.
Or both of those things can be an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to answer that question, we have to be real transparent with ourselves and be able to recognize.
You have to be able to get vulnerable with yourself and with somebody else.
Because if you haven't done a lot of self-reflection and self-work, what you're going to get back reflected is you're not even going to be able to see the other person very well. Right? Because what you often see is yourself reflected until you recognize that it's you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that a relationship can give to us, is that mirrored reflection of, oh, that's me. That's part of my stories that I'm telling myself. And is that working?
And Lauren, so many times, unfortunately, we don't get there. We stumble on, you tell that old coot.
Right.
We stumble on the blame of the other person needs to change instead of being willing to look within ourselves.
What's my part in this?
That's my part. And because there's always going to be two sides and two parts, more than one part.
Right.
To any problem. And if we're not willing to look into all of it, we're kind of binding ourselves to not be able to solve and move through the problem.
Yeah. And I think compatibility, when you talk about that, a lot of people think, well, we're the same. And I don't know that compatibility is always about sameness.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
It's about alignment and adaptability.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like puzzle pieces fitting together, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's each one is different, but the pieces fit.
They fit together.
Yeah, they fit together.
Because there's been plenty of couples that I know that maybe have something as different as their religious beliefs,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've known Catholics who married to Jews, right?
I have that in my family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it's about deciding, okay, where do we align, with our values? Because that's going to be the most important piece, knowing what your values are,
Right.
what you value the most, and is that a place that we can get in alignment with?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be the same, but we have to agree to a general direction.
Yep.
And being able to flex and adapt to each other.
And we have to agree that, okay, we're okay with this definition, right?
Yes.
We're okay with our differences.
And communicate them as they evolve, because they will and they do evolve.
Absolutely.
As we do, right?
Absolutely.
So being able to, as you mentioned earlier, stay current with each other.
Travel light.
Yeah.
Travel light. Okay, on to expectations and boundaries. What expectation about our relationship hasn't been met? So, and this question could be asked 2 months in, 2 years in, 25 years in, 50 years in. What expectation about our relationship hasn't been met?
That's important.
It really is. Because, again, relationships are about self-growth, and they're not about selfishness, but they're about self-growth,
right?
And the growth of the other.
Yeah, and this is that kind of reminds me. There's a marriage counselor that I follow, and her method is the SEEN method, SEEN.
Okay.
So anytime that there's an issue within the relationship, she suggests that you ask yourself, what am I scared of? That's the S.
Okay.
What am I expecting?
Okay.
That's the E.
I like this.
The next E is, what am I embarrassed of about?
Okay.
And the N is, what do I need?
Okay.
Because so often when we jump into reactivity and we start with that you did this and you did that, if we can pause, pull back and ask ourselves those 4 questions, we can often find a better way to communicate what it is that's really going on underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, we've stirred up lots and lots of questions today. And as we kind of conclude the program today, I'm going to kind of say what I said yesterday, which is we need to do more of this. Mm-hmm. We need to talk about relationships more.
Yeah.
Heck, maybe we will all week. I don't know. We'll see. Talking about, we talk every day here on Strategies for Living about something, body, mind, spirit, or relationship that hopefully make us all healthier, happier, and give us more peaceful lives. We'll be back. More Strategies for Living to come. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian. As always, the clock is unforgiving.
It is, and our producers pause or tapping away.
Yeah, so we covered a lot of ground today, and yet there's still so much to cover.
Barely scratched the surface of what.
Yeah. And so what's your takeaway? What's your takeaway from today?
As we mentioned, I guess the sacredness of all relationships, right? And I think a lot of these questions point back not really to the question of, is the relationship working, but how are we creating something together where both people can be safe, seen, valued, and grow? Mm. Because it's those things that allow for the relationship to quote unquote work, right? To really grow into something for both parties to grow from and evolve into.
How'd you get so smart?
I don't know if I don't know about all that.
I
had a few
do.
great teachers, and you're
do.
among them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But, we couldn't be talking about a more important subject than relationships. So we'll keep doing it. I don't know if we'll do it again tomorrow, but we'll see.
You never know.
You never know. With us, you never know.
That's our relationship.
Well, what are we going to make now? Been that way from the start.
Just take off.
Yeah. Folks, thank you. Appreciate you being with us today here on Strategies for Living. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, The Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of The Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, Pretty Good Muffies too, SRT Sales Training, Uprising, Addiction Center, and Mira, Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who is it that you would call? What is it that you'd say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillian, I'm David McMillian. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.